In this series, I'm exploring albums that have that special X factor. These are albums loaded with great songs where everything just fits together. Today, I'm going to be looking at the 1989 Pixies album, Doolittle. This is an album that has many of the Pixies' best songs. So let's clarify. To qualify, an album has to be the whole package. It can't just have one or two good songs on it, and likewise, it can't be a cheat mode greatest hits. So what is it that makes Doolittle one of the best albums ever? Doolittle is the second album by the Pixies. It was produced by Gil Norton at Downtown Recorders in Boston on a budget of just $40,000. That's a pretty meager sum for an album from a major label, even in '89. It took 3 weeks to record. That's almost a song a day. The recording and mixing process wasn't without some tension though, and there were a few blow-ups between producer Gil Norton and frontman Black Francis. In a Rolling Stone interview, Francis later recalled that this record is him trying to make us, shall I say, commercial, and us trying to remain somewhat grungy. As is so often the case, that tension helped to create a fantastic piece of work. There was also strain between Francis and bass player Kim Deal, which ultimately resulted in the band taking a break. The album reached number 8 on the UK Albums Chart, which was a pretty high rank for an alternative band. It went gold in 1995 and platinum in 2018. It's been the inspiration for many alternative artists and was ranked by NME in a 2003 poll as the second greatest album of all time. Pitchfork also ranked it as the 4th best album of the 1980s. The album's got some pretty strong themes, including environmentalism, death, and a bunch of biblical themes. The album starts and finishes with songs about damaging eyes. When listening to these tracks, you shouldn't forget that they were made in 1989. The Pixies were well ahead of their time. David Bowie described their quiet, loud song style as pure dynamics. Very obvious now, but not obvious at the time. A dynamic of keeping the verse extremely quiet and then erupting into a blaze of noise. On to the songs. Let's start with track number 1, which many Pixies fans would argue is the best song that the band has ever done. Debaser. It's not many albums that get to open with an alternative rock classic. This is a high energy track in the key of F major at 136 beats per minute. It starts with a simple bass line which then transforms into a mass of trebly guitar. Then comes the famous guitar riff. There's such an upbeat energy in this track that it just makes you smile. It's hard not to sing along. I love the drum fill used at 16 seconds, which nicely divides the sections. The pre-chorus has a super catchy phrase. The song is actually about the super weird 1929 surrealist silent film Un Chien Andalou by Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. And that was a weird film. I had to study that film when I was at film school, and it is pretty out there. Debaser's got to be one of the most feel-good alternative tracks of the 1980s. And just feel the energy and youthful vigour of this song. It's outrageously good. Tame is a heavily bass-driven track, which has a forceful and driving rhythm. Track number 3 is Wave of Mutilation. It's one of the Pixies' most well-known songs. Black Francis said that the song was about Japanese businessmen doing murder-suicides with their families because they'd failed in business, and they're driving off a pier into the ocean. Not the first time in a Pixies song that someone drives off a pier into the ocean. That's some pretty strange and dark shit. It's in the key of F major at 133 beats per minute. The frenetic pace of the song is driven by its 6/4 timing during the chorus, whereas the verses provide a lot more space for the chords and include 4/4 timing. I actually prefer the UK surf version, which has a much more leisurely pace, but allows the clean phased guitars much more space to move. The UK surf version is at 90 beats per minute. The track opens with a nice punchy drum beat from David Lovering. He probably provides the best playing of anyone on the album actually. The on-beat vibe of the pre-chorus section creates a double time feel. The chorus is just so catchy, with its simple driving rhythm and easy to sing vocal. If you're gonna drive into the ocean, this is the song to do it to. I Bleed rocks a slow beat with a discordant guitar riff and some nice vocal harmonies. Often considered the Pixies' breakthrough song, track number 6 on the album is Here Comes Your Man. This was always a slightly conflicting song for the band, as they viewed it as too poppy. Black Francis reflected in 2004 that he was embarrassed by the song, but nonetheless it became a hit for them. When questioned about the meaning of the song by NME, Francis commented, "It's about winos and hobos travelling on the trains, who die in the California earthquake, peeing their pants. Before earthquakes, everything gets very calm. Animals stop talking and birds stop chirping and there's no wind. It's very ominous. I've been through a few earthquakes actually, because I grew up in California. I was only in one big one in 1971. I was very young and I slept through it. I've been awake through lots of small ones at school and at home. It's very exciting actually. A very comical thing. It's like the earth is shaking and what can you do? Nothing." How much truth there is to this explanation, I'll leave to you to decide. But regardless of what the band think, a lot of people like it. It reached number 54 on the UK singles chart and number 3 on the US alternative airplay chart. It's in the key of D major at 125 beats per minute. The track starts with an upbeat surf guitar style riff and follows a simple G-A-D progression. The main hook is a pre-chorus vocal harmony underlined by a nice clean 8th note guitar riff leading into a catchy chorus lyric. It moves into a nice jangly bridge section. Track number 6 is Dead. Yes, dead. Literally dead. This unusual and somewhat dissonant track is about the biblical story of David and Bathsheba. It's in the key of D major at 120 beats per minute. The pre-verse riff, which enters at the 30-second mark, sets us up for a blaring alternative tune. The main riff at 47 seconds is both cute and disharmonic at the same time. Somehow it just makes you want to move your body. It's juxtaposed at 117 against a melodic guitar section. There is an awesome drum fill in here as well. Like most Pixies tunes, this is very brief at just 2 minutes 21 seconds. Black Francis has an ethos of keeping songs short and punchy, strongly influenced by the rock-pop tracks of the 50s and 60s. The track has a wild, untamed energy that sounds like a bunch of feral preschoolers have escaped from an asylum and taken over a rehearsal room. Monkey Gone to Heaven is track number 7. It has a strong environmentalist theme. It looks at the destruction of the ocean and certain folklore around it. To quote Francis, on one hand, it's this big organic toilet. Things get flushed and repurified or decomposed, and it's this big, dark, mysterious place. It's also a very mythological place where there are octopus's gardens, the Bermuda Triangle, Atlantis, and mermaids. Monkey Gone to Heaven also has a sub-theme of the relationship between human beings and the divine. This can be identified in this lyric. The track is in the key of F sharp minor at 117 beats per minute. It opens with a really simple but catchy bass line. This progresses through the verse, and then in comes this riff for the chorus. The track closes out with a variation on the chorus riff. The track has a super catchy vocal hook in the chorus, accompanied by a harmony from Kim Deal. It has one of the best bridges of any Pixies song, in which Black Francis goes from low breathy vocals up to full and luxurious, barbarous yells.
If man is five, then the devil is six, then the devil is six, the devil is six, devil is six, and if the devil is six, then God is seven, then God is seven, then God is seven.
Monkey Gone to Heaven combines beautiful melodies and harmonies with raucous, savage guitars. Black Francis hits some of his best vocal notes on this track. Mr. Greaves has a ska reggae rhythm which weirdly contrasts against the alternative vocals and lead guitar. It transforms into a strongly on-beat 50s style rock and roll tune. Crackety Jones is a very punk style track with frantic guitar playing. La La Love You is a high energy rock track with a 60s surf influenced guitar twisted with alternative stylings into a cheerful little alternative guitar riff, accompanied by wolf whistles. Number 13, Baby, features a pumping bass riff accompanied by a cacophonous guitar arpeggio. The bridge features more surf-style guitar and closes out with a great instrumental section. There Goes My Gun is another Pixies classic, with great vocal call-outs contrasting a highly melodic chorus. If you're looking for a short song, this one comes in at 1 minute 49 seconds. Hey is another classic by the Pixies, with great composition between instruments. It is typical of the Pixies' quiet, loud songwriting style.
Hey, must be a devil between us, or whores in my head, whores at the door, whore in my bed, but hey.
Silver starts off with weird, almost jarring melodies between instrument and voice, and trudges along like a soundtrack that escaped from the bastard child of a spaghetti western and Justified. The last track on the album is Gouge Away. It's another track with a biblical theme, this time based around the story of Samson and Delilah. Black Francis must have been on a metaphysical journey when writing the lyrics for this album. This is one of my favourite Pixies tracks. It rolls in the key of B major at 126 beats per minute. Gouge Away enters with a nice simple bass line and drum beat combo. Which then builds before arriving at this tension-creating guitar riff, which transforms into the chorus. It's got some great lyrics and vocal delivery from Black Francis.
Missy aggravation, some sacred questions. You stroke my locks, some rep. If you got some, gouge away. You can gouge away, stay all day if you want to. La la.
And some nice drumming from David Lovering. This is an epic song, bristling with pubescent energy that just makes you want to jump into the centre of a mosh pit. The impact of Doolittle has been significant. The loud to quiet dynamic, which is so readily presented in songs like Tame, has had a major influence on alternative rock. Bands like Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer, the Foo Fighters and Radiohead have to offer tribute at the altar of the Pixies. Doolittle is the band's most accessible album. Even though it crosses the state lines of violence, biblical imagery and fucking, there's something in there for everyone. But it's undeniable. Many of the tracks on this album are alternative rock classics. And that's what makes Doolittle one of the best albums ever.